Chapter 22-27, 8 Transformations. Whoosh, Animo had no time to think as the icy blue flames roared toward him. If he didn't escape quickly, he'd surely be scorched by that damned magnificent ice. That thing, once it touched you, there was no good way to shake it off unless you cut your flesh. It would only keep draining your power. Moreover, Vermilion Bird could absorb her opponent's power through the flames to strengthen herself. The longer the battle lasted, the mightier she grew. Yet, if Animo fled beyond the forest's edge now, he knew Black Tortoise would surely be waiting with its gaping maw, its dark light cannon primed and ready to strike the moment he appeared. Should he flee? He contemplated the very question every silver armor general would face. In such an utterly lopsided, hopelessly unequal battle, retreat was the wisest choice. Yet soon, he was forced to recognize another, inescapable truth. He had no right to flee. Should he abandon his post, a gaping hole would open in the front lines. The human coalition forces would surge through, marching straight toward the imperial capital. Then, even if the war ended, he would be executed by Marshal Jinglu for desertion in the face of battle. Therefore, escape was impossible. He must fight to the death to seize a sliver of hope. Having consumed so many resources from the Wulwan Empire, they had been trained precisely for a moment like this. Animo gritted his teeth, and his form shifted once more. The colossal bear's body twisted grotesquely, sprouting 8 razor-sharp, pitch-black limbs. Its head erupted with numerous crimson compound eyes. In an instant, he became a colossal spider over 10 meters tall, a monstrous form that sent chills down the spine of anyone who saw it. Especially his limbs, each one seemingly forged from black iron, radiating an intimidating, razor-sharp cold glint. Power of 8 God, Scarecrow spider form. After transforming, he did not charge out but instead began burrowing into the ground, swiftly retreating underground. Vermilion Bird slowly flapped her wings, gazing coldly down from the high heavens. She addressed Black Tortoise, "If he escapes, we march straight to the front lines to slaughter the Lizard Clan. Destroy their cities, tear down their walls, exterminate their armies and civilians. If he hasn't fled, he's likely transformed into his spider form to escape this sea of fire underground. Monitor ground movements." Transforming into a scarecrow spider was Animo's optimal choice at this moment. The decision Animo could make in an instant was one Vermilion Bird and Black Tortoise, 2 veteran soldiers, could also foresee. After all, among the entire Huashu Kingdom's allied forces this time, if battlefield experience truly mattered, theirs was the most extensive. Operating in maritime regions year-round, they had faced countless complex situations. Confrontations with the Colombian Navy, eradicating pirate gangs, and dealing with mutated deep-sea behemoths. These experiences had forged their exceptional combat experience. Animo had indeed emerged. He surfaced from another area, positioning himself precisely at Vermilion Bird's rear flank. The moment he emerged from the earth, his first action was to spew a white spiderweb toward Vermilion Bird. The web shot forth like an arrow, propelled at bullet-like velocity, then abruptly expanded the instant it neared Vermilion Bird. It was unimaginable, a web cluster initially smaller than a human head unfurled into such colossal proportions. The unfurled silk threads were as fine as threads, instantly covering an area of several thousand square meters. However, Vermilion Bird had long been prepared. By the time the web approached, she had already sensed its presence. Facing the web, Vermilion Bird showed no sign of panic. She simply opened her mouth and expelled a stream of ice-blue flame. The magnificent ice adhered to the web and began to burn rapidly along its surface. In mere moments, the colossal web had its energy completely drained, disintegrating into ash in midair. Black Tortoise's dark light cannon had finished charging and fired directly at Animo. Boom! To prevent Animo from burrowing underground again, this strike slammed into the earth itself. The massive dark light cannon shot across the lake surface, blasting a trench dozens of meters deep into the earth. It shattered the ground, crashing into Animo's body like a colossal shovel. Animo had no time to evade, forced to rely solely on the straw spider's carapace to withstand the dark light cannon blast. His body was sent flying far away by the impact. Black Tortoise and Vermilion Bird immediately gave chase once more. Whoosh, Vermilion Bird soared through the sky, transforming into a merciless flame-spewing machine. Slender blue flames erupted from its mouth, swelling into burning, raging fields as they met the wind below. Black Tortoise, too, propelled himself skyward from the water using his jet engines, spiraling down to crash heavily toward Animo. Animo's mind was collapsing. The power of 8 gods was an immensely potent advanced beast-type ability. Its various forms allowed him to adapt to any challenging combat environment. Yet now, no matter how he transformed, his opponents seemed utterly unfazed, effortlessly countering every one of his abilities. How could he possibly fight under these circumstances? He could only drag his wounded body, scuttling swiftly across the ground on all 8 limbs to evade the attacks closing in from behind. Boom! Black Tortoise pursued relentlessly, guided by Vermilion Bird's precise positioning in the sky. Animo had no escape. Diving into the earth now would be an equally perilous choice. Because Animo provided a textbook demonstration of this very danger. He had no choice but to burrow underground, temporarily evading Vermilion Bird's aerial lock-on. Shortly after he vanished beneath the earth, a colossal shadow crashed down from the sky. The massive Black Tortoise spiraled into the area, striking like a nuclear bomb. The immense shockwave caused the ground to collapse like sand. Boom! The strike caused the earth to sink hundreds of meters deep. Hundreds of millions of tons of earth, along with surrounding buildings and forests, were hurled far away by the immense force. No matter how fast Animo could burrow, he couldn't outrun this bombardment from the heavens. His body was nearly crushed by Black Tortoise. At the most perilous moment, he shifted his form. From a scarecrow spider, he transformed into a long, slithering earthworm. This creature, appearing somewhat repulsive and slimy, held almost no advantages for a beast-type ability user. Its speed and strength were negligible. Yet it possessed one paramount advantage: formidable vitality. Take now, for instance. Though his body had been crushed by Black Tortoise, snapping into several pieces, a mere twitch of his form saw the largest segment rapidly regenerate its missing half. It then burrowed deep underground, scurrying swiftly toward greater depths. Chapter 22-28, You run, and I'll slaughter the city. Black Tortoise shifted his massive frame, using his webbed feet to scrape at the mud below. Eventually, tracking biological reactions through the soil, he located the remnants of Animo's body. Earthworm? He felt a pang of frustration. He thought this move would cripple Animo. Looks like he got away again. Vermilion Bird soared high above, showing no intention of landing. Her strength lay in maintaining distance, unleashing fiery attacks that left no opening for her opponent. Then let's slaughter the city. Vermilion Bird's voice was utterly cold. Agreed. Black Tortoise offered no objection. Both now couldn't be bothered with this deserter. If Animo fled without a fight, they'd already secured victory in this war. They were generals, not ordinary soldiers. Their focus was on overall triumph. Once they seized the entire Wulwan Empire, these lizard men strays would pose no threat whatsoever. Their voices boomed deliberately loud, ensuring Animo overheard their exchange and forcing him to reveal himself. Agony consumed Animo. He wasn't alone in this torment. Through the Silver Armor General's conversation, he'd realized nearly every battlefield faced identical dire circumstances. Across all the battlefields against the mutants, they were overwhelmingly outmatched. Only a few seasoned veterans could turn the tide with their vast experience. But overall, their situation was dire. First, their armies had been utterly crushed. Second, at the high-level mutant level, even their invincible Marshal Jinglu was locked in a fierce battle with an enemy superior mutant. Over an hour had passed since the battle began, yet Jinglu still hadn't defeated his opponent. At this rate, the future of the Wulwan Empire hangs by a thread. Animo struggled not from fear of death, but from the refusal to perish in such a meaningless battle. Meanwhile, all these developments had already been noted by the Empire's high command. Though they couldn't see the details of every battlefield, the relentless contraction of the front lines was undeniable. The impatient voices of the high command echoed in the ears of every silver armor general. Hold the line at all costs. Under no circumstances must these enemies approach the Central District. If the Central District falls, the Empire is truly finished. The Central District housed not only the residences of imperial nobility but also the Empire's vital source industries. Advanced research institutions, cutting-edge corporations, and energy hubs were all concentrated there. The fall of the Central District would signify the complete paralysis of the Wulwan Empire. Suyi's fingers spun the ring on his hand with increasing speed. He began urging his subordinates. The equipment for the underground drift project was already prepared. Without a moment's hesitation, he issued the order. Send our seeds out. Far from the Wulwan Empire. Even if calamity strikes here today, we must preserve a sliver of hope for the Wulwan clan. The situation was critical, there was no time left to wait. A minister hurried over and said to Suyi, "Your Majesty, we have not yet failed. Marshal Jinglu has concentrated the Empire's energy for a desperate final battle. If he wins, we still have a chance." He had intended to add more, but the words died on his lips when he caught sight of the ring on Suyi's left hand. He wanted to say that if Jinglu was defeated, they could still activate the self-destruct system in time. Yet a sudden, overwhelming dread engulfed him completely. Rationally speaking, the Wulwan Empire now stood on the brink of collapse. Yet emotionally, who could accept such a possibility? Not long ago, the Wulwan Empire had radiated harmony and prosperity. Why, in less than 2 hours, had it transformed into this? Many recalled 3 years prior, when they first encountered the surface world. Back then, they hadn't grasped the nature or strength of surface life forms. Thus, even the mighty Marshal Jinglu had to proceed cautiously, testing the waters. Later, upon realizing humans were simple, weak creatures, they conceived the idea of conquering the surface world to prepare for future uncertainties. They launched repeated attacks against them, dispatching their most elite mutants to assassinate the leaders of the Huashu Kingdom. Yet not only did Huashu Kingdom survive, they met with retribution. In the grand scheme, all things are predestined. They sowed the seeds themselves, and now reap this harvest. In this war, regardless of victory or defeat, the Wulwan Empire stands to lose everything. For even if they triumph, at best the Huashu Kingdom will fall. They will suffer immense destruction, setting their nation back thousands of years. Moreover, with the Qinling Mountain Dragon clan protecting Huashu Kingdom, they dare not advance further. They have only themselves to blame. No, there is nothing to regret. War between civilizations is a matter of life and death. If there is any regret, it is that they misjudged Huashu Kingdom's strength. A storm is brewing, already engulfing the entire Wulwan Empire. Chaos reigned across all 4 major districts, though the Eastern District bore the brunt of the devastation. These lizard folk found themselves caught in a pincer movement. With the Huashu Kingdom allied forces closing in from behind, they had hoped retreating to the rear would spare their lives. Little did they know their own kind would strike with even greater ferocity. For the millions of lizard folk in the Eastern District, death was merely a matter of time. By comparison, lizard folk in the other districts, though hit by explosions, faced less immediate danger for now. At this moment, some lizard folk, inspired, took up distributed weapons and marched onto the battlefield to rescue their Eastern District kin. Yet they served merely as cannon fodder, briefly delaying the Huashu Kingdom's advance, utterly insignificant to the larger conflict. Along the border front, Black Tortoise and Vermilion Bird kept a wary eye on Animo while following the main army into the Eastern District. The Eastern District was vast. The section they were tasked with attacking alone covered an area half the size of Tianhai City. The city teemed with fleeing lizard men. Vermilion Bird soared through the skies, exhaling a breath that sent icy blue flames surging toward the streets. These flames spread like a raging flood. They flowed along the streets, splitting at intersections, penetrating every crevice. In an instant, the fleeing lizard men on the streets froze solid. All energy drained from their bodies, turning them into frozen lumps. With successive crack sounds, they collapsed to the ground, shattering into a carpet of ice shards. Not only living beings, but even structures were losing their warmth. Electricity and heat sources within buildings were being drained, and the very temperature of the air itself was being devoured by the icy blue flames.